And welcome to this last video in this series, which will deal about file operations. Till now, whatever data we have created, whatever programs we have run, have always stayed only and only in the main memory, which means the moment you actually turn off your computer, or let's say you stop the execution of your program, they are gone. So therefore, sometimes it may be necessary, that we may actually need to store that data permanently, which means that it has to be there stored as files on your hard drive, or maybe pen drive, or any kind of permanent storage. So this is the idea of creating data from a program that outlives the program, right? And Python offers a very simple API to actually do this. We will see actually the inbuilt Python function of uh, open to implement all this. There are multiple ways in which this can be done. I will show the way which I feel is the easiest. So without any further ado, let's deep dive into this right away. As has been previously told as well, the word you should always have in mind is CRUD. Now what does CRUD stand for? It is short for create, read, update and delete. Now some people also call it curd, which is also sort of logical and definitely more tasty. But what we need over here, I mean, whichever word you follow doesn't really matter so much. Uh, Create should hopefully come the first and delete the last. And we will just talk about each and every function as we go along. Okay, so let's start first with the create. I'll just basically wrap all of this into a function. So I'm calling it create. The idea is that I will have a file that I will create, basically just a normal text file, and it would be nothing but just an introduction, saying something like, hey, I am a Python programmer. So let's do that. First of all, we could create a file name, which is basically the name of the file that we would want. As of now, we will keep it to txt file, so I'll just call it as introduction.txt. Right. And now what we need to do is we need to get a file object. So you could say file is equal to open, and now open function, now this takes, as you can see, it takes a file object, which in this case can also be a reference to the name of the file, which is file name. And then you have to pass a mode. As you can clearly see over here, it says a mode, and the mode that we are going to write over here is W, which is short for write, which means that we are going to write something in this file. And as we are going to write, we would just say file.write, hey, I am a Python programmer. Okay, and let's also just add a new line at the end. Cool. And always remember whenever you have done a file open, you should do a file.close. Another way to actually kind of get away from explicitly writing file.close is using the with as syntax, which I would encourage you to actually learn on your own. Let's just go ahead and run this create function. Hopefully this should create a file called introduction.txt in the same folder as the current Python file, which should have our text stored inside of it. We run this. Alright, the process seems to be finished successfully. You can see that indeed a txt file has been created, and it contains the exact same line, hey, I'm a Python programmer. Alright, so since we have seen create, now let's go about reading the file. So the same file, we are going to actually display the content of that file over here on this console. Alright, this may be necessary for multiple operations, right? Because when you are building an actual application, you may need to read data from a lot of files. They may be CSV files, they may be text files, they could be any kind of files, right? So usually how do we do this? Again, the file name, I guess I'll probably just copy paste this. Now since this action seems a bit repetitive, there could have been a better way to actually store this file name somewhere, probably outside over here, but then we may have to go and use the global keyword, which again I encourage you guys to learn, to have a look at what is the global word and how is it used in Python. And file name is now introduction.txt. We just need to get this file to open, right? So again we will copy paste file name, and we are going to open it in the read mode. R stands for read. what are we going to do next? We are just going to print file dot, and you can see the options are suggested. We can just go ahead and select file dot read lines. Okay, that's basically going to print the lines one by one. Okay, you could also have done file dot read, that would have printed all the lines at once. File.readlines is usually something that lets you iterate over the file line by line. It's somewhat helpful, especially when you're dealing with tabulated data, all right? And let's not forget to do a file.close in order to be a bit lenient on our system. And then when we read this, we should get, as you can see, hey, I'm a Python programmer. Now, the reason why we are getting, if you notice carefully, we are getting kind of this this square brackets because we are using read lines. If you don't want that, you could just do file.read, and you will see that now you're just getting the raw content that is stored in the file. Okay, cool. So we have seen two functions. Now next in line is update. All right, so we are going to look at only one type of update, which is actually append. So what we're going to do now is write something to the end of the file, okay, which means the file over here is, hey, I'm a Python programmer. We are going to write some new line over here. We are going to add it. So again, let's just copy paste this. File name equals, introduction.txt, and we need to get the file to open now. So we could say file equals open of file name comma, you have to put a here because you're trying to append to the file. Append is basically just adding at the end. Let's say we wish to add some line now. We could just say the method is still the same, file dot write. You can say file dot write, and it is so much fun. All right. So just to express that, yeah, you're really enjoying working with Python, and then you could just do a file dot close. Now when you go and call the append function, what would you see? You will see that this has also been added now, right? In fact, if you call the read function right now, ideally you should get both the lines printed here on the console, and indeed you do get, right? Hey, I'm a Python programmer and it is so much fun. Next up is delete, and delete, I would say here again, I'll just probably put, this by the way is called this is a doc string which documents this function. You put triple quotes, double or single doesn't really matter, but use double because that's mostly what people use. So yeah, you go for triple double quotes, and whatever you enter over here now will be taken as the the doc string, which means this is going to be this is going to document the function. So we are just going to say that this function deletes a file, all right, and therefore I'm going to say proceed with caution. So we have just given a kind of a description to the person who will be using our function that delete is actually going to delete this file introduction.txt, okay, and therefore you should delete with caution. Sorry, because delete is kind of an irreversible action. If you delete something, it may not actually come back, so you should always proceed with caution whenever you are deleting something. Over here what we're going to do now is we are going to have an import statement. I think this would be the first import statement that we would have seen in this course. So we're just going to import this simple module called OS, which is short for operating system, and it's basically just a one-line code. All you have to do is os.remove, and you have to pass the file name, right? So I'll just copy this part again. File name equals introduction.txt. The other workaround for not duplicating file names is that these functions could have expected file name as a parameter, and this caller function on the outside could always have passed introduction.txt. That is also a way. Okay, so you could just do os.remove file name, and that's it. It's as simple as this. So you just call delete, and now if you run this, you can see that the file is gone. There is no file called as introduction.txt over here. In fact, if we call read right now, we should get an error. because we are trying to read from a file that doesn't exist, and we do get an error, file not found error, right? So yeah, guys, please proceed with delete with caution. All right. And I think this concludes this course, guys. It has been great actually delivering all these basic concepts of Python, and I hope you have liked it. Please feel free to reach out to me for any suggestions, any feedback, and I shall be happy to assist you there. And all the very best for your Python journey. I hope you continue to learn and improve in this wonderful language. Thank you, one and all.